Hello, you're watching Malaika. A very warm welcome to our show today. The greeting might be warm, but the subject we're talking about today is anything but warm. Don't touch that dial as we'll reveal the topic of the day. Modern slavery. I'm sure you know about the Atlantic slave trade that happened between the 16th and 19th century. But did you know the reality of our lives today is even more sinister than that? So to discuss this topic, I have with me Mama Audrey.
Hi, Jackie.
Good to have you with us. Tatiana.
Pleasure to be here, Jackie.
And all the way from Zimbabwe, Auntie Zodwa.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Judge.
And with us in studio, viewers, we have a special guest. Her name is Florence. Welcome, Florence.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you.
And we'll hear your story later on. So stay tuned so that you can hear her story further on in the show. To begin with, we're going to move over to Tatiana for Tat's Overview. So Tatiana, what do you have for us regarding modern slavery?
Well, Jackie, let's look at first and define what is modern slavery, because many people today don't actually even know that it exists. Furthermore, even what it is.
Exactly.
So what is modern slavery? Modern slavery is the severe exploitation of people for personal or commercial gain. Well, Jackie, in the past, there were approximately 12 to 15 million slaves. And today we're looking at the fact that the Global Slavery Index estimates that there are over 40.3 million people living in slavery today. It's shocking. And sadly, modern slavery is all around us, but the sad reality is that people just don't know or see or understand it when they see it. What are some examples of modern slavery? Well, it's the people who are making our clothes. It's the people who are cooking our food and serving us in restaurants. Very well could be. It's those who are picking our crops, those who are working in factories, those who are working in houses or cooks, and many others. And sadly, many have fallen into this oppressive trap because they're trying to escape from poverty, they're trying to improve their lives, or simply to support their families. And it's important to note that today's slavery is illegal, and it requires crime and corruption to continue. Slavery is big business. Globally, modern slavery generates over $150 billion a year. In closing, Africa is the world's epicenter of modern-day slavery. According to the Global Slavery Index, there are approximately 400,000 people living in sexual exploitation in Africa.
Those are the ones they know about.
Exactly.
Thank you for that, Tatiana. We're going to move over to you, Auntie Zodwa. Sorry, it's a very sad note we've got today. Could you tell us the context from Southern Africa, please?
Yes, Jackie. In Southern Africa, I think when people think of slavery, they don't actually realize that they themselves are enslaving people, because there's different forms of slavery. Basically, as Tatiana has said, that it's being forced to do something that you don't want to do. So I'll just give examples of traditional practices that actually enslave someone without the family even realizing what they are doing. For example, it's very common that when a sibling dies who's married, the younger sister can be given over to the husband. And this is done against her own will. And I actually know a young girl, beautiful girl, and she was still in school. She lost her sister. And then the family arranged that she's now going to marry the older man because he was well off. They didn't want the finances to go elsewhere. So she was forced into marriage. For me, that's slavery, because you're taking someone who is in school and changing the whole course of their lives in order to benefit the family. So sometimes families don't realize that they are actually practicing this in their homes. When we think slavery, we always think of the old-fashioned ones where people are in chains and they are taken across the Atlantic, but we're doing it in our very homes. I'll also give an example how we treat our maids today. Very often, there's so many orphans in Zimbabwe, in Southern Africa, because of HIV and AIDS. How many homes have a niece or a nephew or a cousin that they've brought from the rural areas who's lost their family and now becomes the family slave? She does all the cooking. She's up at 4 a.m. She looks after the children. She's doing a job of a maid, but she's not getting paid for it. For me, that's a form of slavery. So as we talk about it, we always think of the sex trafficking side, which is something we'll look at later. But that's not the thrust that we're talking about today. It's the day-to-day slavery that we live with and are not even aware we are enslaving our own people.
Thank you, Auntie Zodwa.
Definitely.
Indeed, it's shocking. But Mama, what response could we give to what Tatiana has said as well as Auntie Zodwa?
You know, as Zodwa was speaking, I was thinking, I know somebody in Mauritius where we live, she got married, and today she's the one cooking for the in-laws. She's the one washing the clothes, not only of her mother-in-law, not only of her husband, but of her sisters-in-law. They don't wash their own clothes. She's the one who is washing everything, cooking for everybody, cleaning the house. What if not, isn't that slavery? So this is on our eyes. So I believe we have also the responsibility to teach these people, to tell them, you don't have to go through that. You don't have to accept that. You've got rights, you can say no. You don't have to go that way. And be aware, you know, I heard many stories of people who just through an eye contact realized that that person was going through a very hard time and found out something. And it is very, there are things we can do. We can fight for the cases we know. If we hear about somebody, if we hear about something, if something we find it funny, it's strange, we must talk. We must not play the ostrich and pretend we didn't see. We must do our part because it's very sad. Today they spoke about, they celebrate every year the abolition of slavery. Thank you.
The irony.
Everywhere they celebrate that in the whole world.
Yes, we do.
And yet under their own eyes, in the eyes of the United Nations, of all these big assemblies, they know this is existing and not much is being done. And as Tatiana says, for it to carry on, there must be corruption. There must be corruption linked to it because probably they will go to the police station and nothing will be done.
Exactly.
So, because these guys are normally well situated in life, they've got positions in life, they are politically connected. I believe that otherwise there's not much that can be done, apart from what you know.
Yes. Exactly. It's ironic, hey, that it's even worse now than it was then, and yet now we celebrate the passing of what was then. So viewers, we're going to turn over to Mademoiselle Florence. She is Mauritian, and she'll tell us her story. So, Florence, could you please tell us your story with regards to modern slavery?
Yes, of course. I think first, I just want to touch on what you guys said. I think when you are in that position, sometimes you don't even realize that you are, and like you said, sometimes they don't realize they are actually doing that slavery to you as well, in the sense. Anyway, I'll tell you about my story. So it started actually when I studied in England, and I got in touch with a school in Malaysia. And so after my study, that school offered me a job in Malaysia. So it was going to be a one-year job, and then I was going to go to another place to open one of their branch in that place. And so I went because I knew the school, so I went to Malaysia, and it was great. Like, Malaysia was fun. And then while I was there, they told me that the branch that's actually going to open is in Abu Dhabi. And you think, wow, Abu Dhabi, never thought about that. It's a big, grand country. So yeah, I just got excited about it. I just went. I said yes. Of course, I researched about it. I looked. I asked people who worked there to help me out, and I really I just didn't say yes like this. You know, I really.
You research,
yeah, I researched, and I wanted to know where I was going to live for the next 2 years. And I did see about this thing that they do where they take your passport and they don't give it back to you. But for some reason, you read it, but you always think, oh, that's not going to happen to me.
Never happened to me.
Never.
Yes.
So it was time to go, and I left, and I went, and things was fine. So obviously, like, it's a lot of trust as well. Like, you trust your employees. You don't know. You go to a country. I was by myself. You go to a country you don't know. So obviously they
are your only contact.
Yeah, they are your only contact, exactly. So you just do whatever they told you, okay? So he bought me, for example, like, one of the things I did was, so the first day I arrived, he brought me to my accommodation because I was going to get an accommodation from the company. Get to the accommodation, I realized the door is, that kind of lock where if you leave the keys inside, you'll lock outside. And he had spare keys. So, like, he was the only person I knew, so I said, okay, I feel better if you have a spare key and I have my own keys. And I'll tell you later what happened to that spare key. But basically, you trust them. So when he asked me for my passport to do my working visa, I gave him my passport. And then as we were time was passing, I actually forgot about my passport. And then I just realized, oh, where is my passport? It's been a while that my passport hasn't been here. And I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't heard anything about my permit.
Yes.
So let me ask about it. And so I went to ask, and that's when I got the shocking news that I was not going to get my passport. He told me, frankly, he said, it's very common here that we keep people's passport.
Did you say why? Did you say why?
No, he said it was common, and I'm going to keep it for you. And if you need to, it's an Arab world, and he was an Arab, and basically when you are a lady alone, if you don't have a father or a brother or a husband, you're basically under you're under your boss, like any of the men. You need to go, like, you're under the authority of any of the men. So he was my authority in Abu Dhabi, and I had to, anything that I wanted to do with my passport had to go through him anyway. So he said that's what his argument was. Yes. It has to go through him anyway. So I'll keep it. Okay. I'll keep it, and if you need to do anything, I'll give it back to you.
Okay.
And I did not swallow that. I was like, no, I'm sorry, but this is not happening. I want my passport back. There's nothing to do with you. I just want my passport back. And the trouble started here because I stood firm of what I wanted, and he didn't like that because obviously people stay quiet, and just trouble started happening from there. And he even asked, like, do you know the employees? And that's why, like, when she said some people, they don't know they are in it. So Filipinos, for example, which is the main, like, they are like the majority of the expat in Abu Dhabi. It's very common for them to get taken, so that the employees take their passport. And because they need the money, because they need to support their family, because there's so much pressure on them in a way to get that money, they will not say anything. They will stay really quiet, not say anything. So my employees, the people who were working with me, came to tell me, it's common, don't worry about it. But yeah, so this is where the struggle started, and basically after 3-month probation, he gave me a new contract, which he was going to remove my accommodation, and he was going to give me money to pay for my accommodation. But the money he was giving me was actually enough to pay for for bunk beds. So you go into a room with like 6 people in a room, and you rent a bed, and this is not how I live. Some people decide to do it. I didn't want to do it. So I just said, no, I didn't come. This is not what I signed up for. I'm not going to, I need an accommodation. And thank God I had an amazing church in Abu Dhabi, and they basically took me. So one family one day just said, come to us. So I stayed with them for like maybe 6 months,
thank God
sharing. Oh yes, sharing a room with their daughter.
And people from where?
This family was from Fiji, but the Abu Dhabi being such an expat community, there's people from everywhere. So that church was like very international. And so after that, after the whole accommodation thing, I basically contacted the consulate, and the nearest one was in Egypt, and they told me, look, you have two options. Either we intervene or you quit your job. And I decided to quit my job. And that also was a big thing, because when I told him, like, I'm not going to sign the second contract, which didn't give me the accommodation, he said, well, you have a bond. Because when I signed, I had a bond. And I was like, I didn't see that coming. So it was big money. It was big money. It was like 200,000 rupees, Mauritian rupees, so which I didn't have. So and then I I needed to get this out of the way. So what I basically did is I read the whole labor law. And I was like, I need to find something. and thankfully also, you can call, there's a hotline to call to the labor office. And so I was constantly calling them. And then one day we just realized that my contract was a unlimited contract. So if it was on an unlimited contract, then that means it's illegal for him to ask me for a bond. But if it was in a limited contract, then I would have a bond to pay. And when I realized that it was on an unlimited contract, I went back to his office the next day, like, so happy. And I'm like, actually, you can't do this, it's illegal. And he got in a rage. Like, I mean, we went into fights. I'm not very proud of this, but he would not let it go. I would not let it go. So, so I was very, very happy to got that I could have a little, exit.
What happened to the spare key?
Oh, what happened to the spare key? Sorry. So
you waited with the spare key.
Yes. Because they were going to remove my accommodation, I said to him. I contacted the Malaysian company because they sent me to Abu Dhabi. So I contacted the Malaysian company and I said, you need to do something here. And they were coming for a weekend in Abu Dhabi. So they came to the weekend and they wanted to see where I was living. And so it was a Friday, because it's over there you don't work on Fridays. So it was a Friday morning. I just woke up and I didn't have, I didn't brush my teeth, nothing. Like, I was just out of bed. And where our accommodation was, it was not a very safe place as well. So people would come knock at the door to sell things and stuff. So I would never open the door. And I hear a knock on the door, and I checked with my housemate. I had a housemate, a Filipino housemate. I checked with her. I said, were you waiting for someone? She said no. I was like, okay, just leave it then. Just pretend we're not here. And we stayed. And someone was still knocking at the door, wanted to come, insisting. And so I went to look into the little hole and find 3 shadows of men, and that's when I realized it was the boss and the 2 people from Malaysia. And I just got a shock, and I just didn't know what to do. So I ran to my housemate and I said, just get ready, I'll figure out something. And as I turned, he let himself in the house with the spare key. And I was not ready to welcome someone. So that was my boundary. That's my house. So I don't think, even if you have a spare key, you should come into the house. But because he had a spare key, he thought he could. So he let himself in, and he was looking, like he was showing them around, and my housemate locked herself in to change. And they were waiting for her to open the door. And once she opened the door, he went in and he looked under the bed and in the cupboards. Because basically in Abu Dhabi, if you're a single woman and you have a man inside, you can go to prison for this, because you're not allowed to have a man in your house. This action, actually, that was what scared me, because I was like, if ever there was a man,
we can trap you.
He could easily, and because he's a guy, like, my word doesn't count. Like, my word with the police would not count. So he could do anything to try. I don't know what he was capable of. So this was my alarm, where I was like, no, I need to get out of here. But you don't realize until until things like this happens, and you're like, oh wait, this is not good, this is wrong. Yeah.
So when did you finally leave Abu Dhabi?
When I left, I left after. So it was 3 months, and then after I quit I quit the job, I could find another job. So I had like a month to find another job, and then I worked in another job, but that didn't work out as well because, I mean, just how Abu Dhabi works over there. They work without, you work illegally in a way, so it was not right. Yeah, so I just left after like maybe 8 months, yeah.
Thank God it wasn't longer, hey? And you were able to come out of it.
Yeah.
I'll come to you, Mama Audrey. Regarding people in her situation, what advice would you give them?
I think she did right. She didn't let go. It was the right thing to do. And as I say, she was able to speak, but not everybody is able to speak. Not everybody is able to fight their case because they're sometimes tied up, they're sometimes blocked, they're not allowed to go out, they're not allowed to have a phone, they're not allowed to talk to people.
Yes.
The only way they can find help is that they must speak through their eyes. They must speak to their eyes. They must leave a note somewhere in the toilet.
Yeah.
They must try to get out of their situation and not just accept it and surrender and say this is nothing I can do. There's always something we can do. Especially like Florence, she knew Jesus.
Yes.
You can pray and ask the Lord to send an angel to open a door, to make a way, to put somebody on your road, to fall sick. Be in hospital, I don't know, there must be something.
There's a way,
Idea is you can start thinking, I'm sure there must be ways, but unless you just give up and say, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, and I think God will always make a way.
Like many of those who were there. He says it's normal, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Exactly, you weren't the only one.
Yeah, and I didn't have a family, you know, like to support, whereas like a lot of them, they have so much pressure in a way.
And also you had a church.
Exactly, I was going to say
if
that.
If you had nobody to welcome you, what would you have done?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the church really helped just to have a community that lived in that country that just welcomed me. No, that really was a God.
It was a blessing.
God sent. Exactly, and a great blessing. Exactly. We're just going to move over to Auntie Zodwa now. Auntie Zodwa, you've heard the story of Florence. What comment would you make about that?
You know, the story is so real because a lot of young people get caught up without realizing. And this is one of the tricks that modern day slavery companies, because these are companies, they use job offers. And we've had situations, a lot of that happening in Zimbabwe, where you get a job offers, being flighted, girls responding, they go over across to a different country, only to realize that the job is not even there. They've actually been sex trafficked or something totally different to what they expected. Literally about a year ago, we received about 30 Zimbabwean young girls that had been made slaves in Kuwait, and they had been offered jobs. So how to get to a place where you can check, is this job genuine? I don't know how you can go about it, because that's one of the biggest tricks that they are using. And another thing I just want to mention quickly is a lot of women also find themselves caught up in drug trafficking, and they don't realize that they've been recruited into drug trafficking. In South Africa, there was a church that set up a building in a community, and they were not a church, obviously, and they got the women in the area to trust them, worship and things like that. And obviously they go for communities where they see there is need. And then they offered women jobs outside only to enroll them into drug trafficking. So all these things are happening, and we just need to be awake and aware.
Yes, Auntie Zodwa, indeed. Hey, it is actually very, very real, as we can hear from Florence. And thank you for that testimony as well. Mama Audrey, could you give us the final remarks, please?
Yes, I think that poverty is not a curse. It's not a shame. And this is unfortunately the line they are using to bring most of these people and young girls. They get caught up because they all want to get out of poverty. But there's other ways to get out of poverty than to have the quickest way. They must be very careful. I'm sure there are lots of young girls listening to us. And some of those girls will have a job offer coming to them one of these days, and you will see your way out of poverty. Believe me, stay poor if you have to, but stay free. That's a much better way.
Yeah.
And also be very careful of debt, because this is also one way they use a lot, is when you need money, you're desperate for money, they offer you a debt, and then you become their slave, because they give you money, and until you give them back the money, you are their slave. So we must be very careful not to rush, because we must know in the days we are living. Everything that shines is not gold. We must know that. Everything that shines is not gold. Many, if you're Christian, trust the Lord, be faithful in what you do. Jesus is there, He will take care of you. You don't have to go and look for a job in Europe or in South Africa or in anywhere, or in Kuwait or in any of these countries, because once you are there, you are helpless. You've got no one to help you. You've got no one to fight your case. I believe we've got to be wise. We've got to be really not allowing ourselves to be tempted into these situations, because the devil will always put all kinds of situations in front of us to trap us and to make us lose our faith in Jesus, to make us get far and probably and into prostitution and into any kind of ways. So let's be wise. Let's not try to run away from our situations. Let's do it God's way. I'm sure Jesus has a plan for everyone, and He will find a way to help you. You don't need to live luxuriously to be happy. You can be in the situation you are in and trust the Lord to help you improve your situation, which doesn't have to be from 0 to 100 in one day. There's not much we can say.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution, Mama Audrey. Very appreciated. Thank you. Thank you to you, Tatiana and Atizodwa. Thank you exceptionally to you, Florence, for sharing your testimony with us. Thank you very much. To you, viewers, for being with us, for being faithful with us. Thank you. And do not forget to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. Till next time, goodbye.